The light fades with death's cold embrace. You've already been zipped and tagged. Struggle as you might, it will not help. No one can break out of the body bag. Here to oversee the autopsy, your hosts, Chris Thomas and Broke Rider Dave.
What's good, everybody, and welcome to Season 3 of Body Bag Podcast. I'm Chris Thomas, and with me, as always, Broke Rider Dave.
How we doing, everybody?
Getting this season kicked off correctly, it's actually a lot more relaxed because we're not interviewing and editing and pumping out the episode in a week. We're pre-recording all of these episodes, and what better way to get us started with a friend of mine. He's a friend from college and who has a book. Is it in the process right now of getting published? Are you still working out the kinks?
That's correct. It's actually, as we speak, in the last stage of publishing before printing, so it's actually very exciting.
Did you still, the settled name of it is Victors of Arkanya, is that correct?
That is correct.
See, I was actually able to get that name pronounced correctly.
Technically, the Victors of Arkanya.
The Victors of Arkanya. Yeah. Written by my good friend, Anthony Gaiani. See, I've said it correctly. Gaiani, not Gianni. Anthony Gaiani.
There you go.
Very well done. Bravo.
Hey, thanks for coming to the show, man.
Absolutely. It's good to be here. It's good to see you virtually. And it's nice to talk about the book and anything else too.
So let's go ahead and get into it real quick. For those who are going to be first time, this is your very first book, is that right?
It is, yes.
So for those who are going to be introduced to the works of Gaiani, what would you say, in a couple of sentences, is the overall synopsis of the story? You know, without giving too much away, but just a general overview of what they can expect.
Sure. So it's what us fantasy nerds refer to as high fantasy specifically, which just means there's a lot more lore in terms of like how magic works in the world with physics. And I've developed individual cultures in different parts of this fictional world this all takes place in. But essentially, it's a story about three young boys who are all brothers, and they're presented with a looming terrible disaster, which I won't specify too much about what that is. But there's a looming disaster very soon to approach, and it's up to them, according to a prophecy, to save the world. And the rest of the story from that point is about these three young kids either learning about themselves and who they are and their destiny and believing it, or questioning it and perhaps straying from that projected path of heroism. It's a story of self-discovery. It's a story of good versus evil, but it also questions current preconceptions of what is evil. A lot of times, as the author, I've seen in other stories evil being portrayed as seductive for the metaphor. And while that may be true, I think more often than not, at least in my experience, evil is extremely unsettling and unappealing. So I chose to emulate that in the villains in my story. They are, if they were real, you would not want to look at them.
You hear that, everybody? Evil is bad.
Yeah.
What a novel idea, right?
You know, when you texted me and told me that it was getting published, it actually gave me a little bit of hope because you had told me about the book idea years ago. When you were, when I don't know if it was in its adolescence. No, it was in its adolescence when you first told me about it. And
absolutely.
Then years later, just randomly, I'm at work and you sent me a text saying, "Hey, I'm getting it published." I was like, "Damn!" I was like, "Man, you know, it gave me hope because."
Yeah.
Dave, have you even touched any of the stories when we said that we were going to try to make our book?
I think I'm about halfway through like my fifth story, actually.
Well, then you are way farther than I am. Because it gave me hope because I'm like, all right, well, I just go back to what Thomas Gloom said when we said that we were going to be writing stories was that, oh, get ready to procrastinate a lot. Yeah, I was like, well,
yeah.
that has been me because I have all the stories that I want to write, but how long would you say that by the end of once you typed the end, how many pages would you say you had total?
It is 183 pages.
Oh, so it's not that bad of a read. That's not that long of a read.
Yeah.
That's a easy you can finish that in the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I personally am of the mindset that whether I choose to make this a series or just a standalone book, the way I wrote it was, if it's going to be a series, I wouldn't want the first book to be 1,000 pages. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because when you told me it was a fantasy story, I was thinking, all right, are we talking about like Lord of the Rings thick book here, or are we talking more like The Hobbit, which is just not as long? Like, I don't know why just in my mind I thought it was going to be like the size of a dictionary when you were done with it.
Well, it's funny you say that, though, because in the early stages of like actually writing, like once I got past outlining what I want the story to do and the characters involved in it, once I actually started writing, my prologue was 45 pages long. Mm-hmm. So, obviously a lot of editing had to take place afterwards. My current prologue is not 45 pages. But
so how did you go about building the world? Since this is a fantasy, you're building, I imagine, a world from scratch. Is that right, or is it taking place in our world, or is it like our world with fantastical elements, or is it an entirely new, different kind of universe?
So that's a great question, and part of why this whole process of writing this book took almost 10 years is because I spent so much time trying to make something we've seen a million times before, magic, feel new and different. And part of that was the world this takes place in. So long story short, I chose to not go with a story that is set on Earth. Instead, I've created from scratch a totally new world. And I developed a system of government, how magic works with the government or not, and cultures about it as well.
See, that seems like it could be both making it harder and making it easy for yourself. Making it hard because you're like, all right, well, I got to make a whole thing from scratch, but at the same time, easy in that if things seem a little bit off, you can just explain it away by, well, this is a different world.
Exactly. Yeah, and that definitely popped its head a few times in the plot. Certain things would happen, and then I would remember, wait, I've already established that can't happen. Then on the other hand, especially like for evil, in one little nugget about what I've developed is magic in my story is born from true love and a belief in an afterlife. So initially, I questioned if that's true, which I've established it is. How is it possible for someone evil but having magic to exist? I won't say the answer, but I will say I played with my own themes, and perhaps a perversion of good is considered evil.
True love. So you just probably had Once Upon a Time playing in the background on an endless loop as you were typing this, I imagine.
I did have the music playing to get me in the mood to type all day long. But I actually didn't want to watch fantasy things while writing it because I didn't want to be influenced by other works.
You didn't want to be like, well, now I'm just copying this.
Exactly. Yeah.
So where are you right now in the whole publishing process?
So we're actually very towards the end. We're currently designing the cover art design. After that begins printing. And once printing is approved, which takes 3 weeks to a month, production and sale begins. So we're looking at end of July, early August for the book to be ready.
Is it going to be on Amazon?
It will. It'll be on Amazon. I've been told it'll be in every brick and mortar store that sells books.
Hey, that's cool.
In particular, right? I'm very pleased with this.
You get to schedule your book tour.
I do. We don't get to start planning that until the book is in printing phase, though. But yes, that will happen.
You're going to have to make sure to give your boy a signed copy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That can be part of the... it'll definitely be part of the Well, I think our giveaway is probably going to be closer towards Halloween, and I want to have a book from all of our guests, and that would be cool to have as part of the gift basket.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll have one from Jamie
really
Stewart, one from Spencer Hamilton, one from you, and then I have like one or two other ones, plus some stuff from the horror convention that I'm going to be getting some merch from. So
nice.
But yeah, that I'm so happy that it's only 100 and something pages because I can only read stuff in bite-sized form. My attention span is so low that I can only read things in short bursts.
Well, comedy aside, that's actually one of the things that led to me having it around that page length, because while there's no true like set in stone, a novel has to be X amount of words or X amount of pages. I did want it to be geared in terms of an audience towards young adults, people fresh out of college. So, while there may be fans of this material, like I didn't want
maybe for people like me, maybe I'll get with you and see about like seeing if we can narrate it and put it in an audiobook form.
I would love that. I want to see how the first like year or so of sales goes. Like if it sells nothing, then I probably won't pursue an audiobook.
No, I'm saying just have me do it. I got my recording stuff right here. I'll just do it. I'll just do it without your permission and there we go. So people can illegally download the audio file online.
Oh, jeez.
But I'm looking. Definitely keep me up to date for when we can expect to. Do we have a roundabout date of when we can expect to see it like out for people to check out?
I don't have a day specifically yet, but we're looking at ends of July, early August. So give or take a week in there.
It'll be out within the season, within our season of the show. So
absolutely.
So Anthony, who are some like authors that inspired you in writing this book?
That's a great question too.
Oh, Dave, you're here.
The obvious ones first, J.R.R. Tolkien. Although, I'll list big names like that, but I'm not trying to be the next J.R.R. Tolkien. You know what I mean? Yeah. So while I did dive headfirst into my world from scratch, I didn't want to try to emulate that and get ahead of myself,
Yeah.
So certain elements I definitely expanded on, like the government and how is someone born with magic or not. But other things I tried to keep simple. Particularly because it's the first book, if it ends up being a series, which I haven't decided yet. But J.R.R. Tolkien, also Lemony Snicket for the drama and mystery element. J.K. Rowling, I really liked her character development and story arcs for her characters.
Yeah.
Which she is just throwing away with these Fantastic Beast movies. Sorry, I just needed to interject.
I know. Oh, gosh. They're so awful.
Well, I mean, she is worth like billions of dollars now, so...
She's worth billions of dollars.
She can do what she wants.
She can afford to shit on her own material, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless you have something else, Dave, I have a good segue into the movie.
No, you're good.
As a nice little segue into the movie, not only do you have that book coming out, but you also have your YouTube channel, Ship-Faced.
I do. Yes, thank you. I just dropped a new video this past Saturday paying tribute to Her Majesty the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne.
Yeah, I took a look at that before hopping on the laptop thing. Your subscribers are growing. I saw that you got from it starting, you're getting a following.
Thank you. I'm trying. It's been less than a year, and I almost have 500 subscribers, so I feel like that's a decent pace.
You want to go ahead and just let people know, because it kind of ties in with the movie that we're going to be reviewing. Just if you want to go check out his YouTube channel, Ship-Face, tell them what they can expect to see.
Sure. So my channel specializes in ocean liners and their impact on history. My format is I'm an avid ship model builder in my personal life. So I'll build a ship model and paint it to be as accurate as possible. And then I take it to the beach and film it for, beauty shots. And then in the YouTube episode itself, I will from start to finish, talk about its story, whether it was in wartime service or just a speed record holder for fastest transatlantic crossing, notable passengers, etc. But yeah, if you're a history buff and you like ships, or I've somehow piqued your interest, take a look, see what you like. I have about 15 episodes currently.
Okay, that's awesome.
Very nice.
Do you have like a ship that's like your favorite out of all that you've looked into or made a video about?
Oh man.
Or is that like
That's
choosing
really
your
weird.
own children?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. My models are definitely my babies.
Yeah.
It's like I have different categorical favorites. Like my favorite modern liner would be Queen Mary 2. My favorite classic liner would be, gosh, even that's tough.
So the long and short of it is no.
Yeah. They're all my favorite. They're all too beautiful to pick one.
But you know what is not beautiful? Haunted ghost ships. Segway.
Ooh, that was good.
First guest pick of the season. You went with Ghost Ship.
I did.
Originally, it was going to be, was it Greyhound?
Yes.
Which I was down for, but then I guess you thought, well, it's a horror movie thing. Maybe I should do a horror movie. Which, in all honesty, people can choose whatever movie, because we had Tag on and we reviewed Joker. So.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's why I like this platform. Is we literally, like, if you want us to watch a comedy, we'll do a comedy. We'll do a thriller. We'll do thriller. If you want a kids movie, we'll do a kids movie. I don't know, but I have to ask real quick.
Sure.
Do you is Ghost Ship like one of your favorite movies, or do you really like Ghost Ship?
It's not, I wouldn't call it a favorite, but I do really enjoy it for a couple reasons. Number one, I've always kind of been interested in movies that weren't huge blockbusters, and this one is absolutely not an enormous blockbuster. It actually got negative reviews, which I thought was interesting.
And those are going to continue during this review. Actually, I was like, I hope this isn't Anthony's favorite movie, because he's not going to like my review of it.
No, not at all. It's a movie entirely made for fun.
I had fun watching it. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
A lot of these movies that like get negative reviews, the one that always comes to mind is Black Christmas, the remake.
The remake, yeah.
The remake.
Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Which is objectively not a good movie, but I had a blast watching
bad,
it because it was how bad it was.
Watch, yeah.
I call it the pug effect. Like, so ugly they're cute, you know?
Yeah.
Yes. This one, I don't know if you have seen Fear.com.
I have not.
But, we reviewed Fear.com last season, and I basically said this kind of felt like Fear.com out on the ocean. For just a quick synopsis, for those who aren't familiar, basically a ragtag group of salvagers get offered a job to salvage an abandoned ocean liner off the Bering Sea. When they find the ship, they find a shit ton of gold and a shit ton of ghosts.
But
Or is that a ship ton?
This movie has like one of the more iconic openings of any horror movie.
Yes, this is the
Everyone's
one.
probably seen the opening scene of this movie.
The two things that I remembered about this movie was that this was my first introduction to who Emily Browning was, and I knew the intro, which it
So I do want
starts
to
off.
say, speaking...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But speaking of the intro, I did want to say, as an ocean liner nerd here, while the story is fictitious, the ship is based on the real Italian ocean liner Andrea Doria, which famously sank in 1956.
I'm glad that you actually mentioned that, because one of the things I was going to bring up is, in a movie like this, what did I say? I said, the way that movie reviewers pick apart movies and like randomly interject like random movie trivia. Do you do that with like movies set on the ocean or and stuff like that? Do you just have to like pause and go like, well, in 1953?
I do actually. Some of my friends proverbially throw tomatoes as they're trying to watch a movie, and I'm just spewing facts. Other times they find it interesting.
So, I mean, nerds come in all shapes and sizes. I mean, this is a movie. I mean, this is a movie review thing, but everybody nerds out. Like, I mean, if you go to our Instagram thing,
Yeah.
if you go to our Instagram page, it's nothing but horror nerds talking about horror stuff, and which is, which is just fun. And you're a nautical nerd.
Absolutely.
But
prepare to get naughty.
Yeah.
Naughty with a K.
The beginning of this movie is basically, is it in 1963? 1960s, I believe.
I thought it was late 50s, but I could be wrong.
1962. I was close.
62. Okay.
In 1962, cruise ship is traveling along. You have music playing. It has a very Shining-esque kind of feel to it at the very beginning with the kind of music that's playing, and people are dancing on the bow. And then you hear sinister music. And then what was it that snapped?
It was like a fishing wire.
A fishing wire snaps, basically severing everybody on the dance floor in half, except for a young Emily Browning, who's too short, and everybody. All right, so
after that, you pretty much turn off the movie.
Yeah, that is they blew their load too quickly by showing the best scene in the movie first.
Yeah.
It was actually a very well done movie. Even if you're not like into gore, it's a very well done scene.
Tension building, and just memorable death. It just everybody severed in half.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna pause this every few minutes. Oh, hold on a second. I'm pausing this right now. Francesca just got up on stage. Sorry, I have the movie playing in the background as we're talking about it, and Francesca just stepped on scene. But I'm gonna like pause every so often and be like, all right, so Anthony, fact or fiction? Can that happen? Fishing line, hook, severing a bunch of dudes and people in half. Can that happen?
So I'm not an expert on fishing line. However, mooring line, so manila rope, I used to go to school at a maritime academy in Massachusetts, and one of my instructors was a former fisherman who told us this horror story of, back when he was our age, which was a million years ago. No offense to him. He was doing lifeboat drill, but all of a sudden in this storm, the lifeboat was under unexpected stress and pressure from wind, and the safety pins still in place incorrectly. And the mooring line holding the boat up snapped. And in its snapping, which was like an enormous rubber band, it cleaned the entire deck off of the crew. All of them vanished in half a second, according to him. So
maybe possible.
Granted, it's potential and possible, but I don't know if a fishing line can handle the stress required to be as tight as would need to be to split a human in half. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, this line was so. Severed a bunch of people in half, basically leaving this little girl, the only survivor, I guess, on the bow. I'm assuming not the only one left on the ship alive at that point, because that would mean every single person was on the same spot at the ship, which I doubt.
Yeah.
But, there was actually multiple wires, all connected the same way, and she indeed was the only survivor.
Well, I was like, then that's a criticism. Then that means every single person, including the engineers and people like driving the ship, were dancing.
Well, no, not necessarily, because there were wires throughout the ship.
Oh, we just saw the ones on the bow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mostly because the little girl is later going to be more important.
Yeah. 40 years later, we get introduced to a salvage team just finishing up a job, and they're celebrating a recent haul that they did. And they get approached by this pilot. He's a pilot. His name is Ferryman.
Yeah, Jack Ferryman.
Jack Ferryman, who says...
Who's by far the worst actor in this movie.
Really? I thought that I thought that the woman was the worst actor in the whole thing.
Julian Margulies?
Whoever the main actress is.
No, she did really good.
I don't know.
And you could tell by the careers going afterwards too. Like Julian Margulies becomes big name. This guy.
Oh, I've seen that guy in plenty of things. We're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this because
He was terrible, dude.
I was sitting here thinking the same thing whenever she was reading lines.
I mean, I feel like it's safe to say everybody in this movie is a bad actor, but that's.
Oh
just
wait,
me.
hold on. Francesca's just took. All right, sorry, Francesca's back. She's seducing. What's his? She's seducing what? Yeah, me. She's seducing what's his face right now. Took the top off and now is walking. Yeah, Greer, and he is no longer thinking of his fiance. But anyway, Ferryman says, "Yeah, while flying over the Bering Strait or Bering Sea, I saw a something out in the ocean. I want you guys to come and salvage it for me. I don't know what it is."
Yes.
They debate about it, but then ultimately go, "All right, sure, why not?" And he goes along with them. Out in the middle of the water, they most unprofessional captain of the ship jamming out to. At the moment that you need to be at your most, attentive, he's jamming out to screamo music and not really paying attention out in the middle of a storm out on the ocean. But
what could
whatever.
possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
They run into a ship that manifests out of nowhere.
Yeah, basically it was coming in and out of the radar, and then it just showed up.
Yes.
Yep.
And they go aboard and they start to look around. Epps is the woman, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Epps, while they're on the ships, is seeing a little girl every so often, played by Emily Browning, who was the survivor of that death scene from 40 years ago. And they basically are trying to determine how would they pull this ship. They have a little tugboat, and this is a huge cruise liner, and they're trying to think of how are we going to get this out of here. So initially, a ghost ship, good setting for a horror movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're out in the middle of the ocean, which is already scary, away from everybody.
Yeah.
I do like that it has. That's maybe it kind of has a. That's what it kind of feels like. It feels like Fear.com meets The Shining, because The Shining, in terms of how that era of how it feels, plus the music that gets played, makes me think of The Shining. A little bit weird though. Some of the lighting, I thought some places were either way too lit for a thing that's been out in the ocean for 40 years, and they're they got flashlights, but I'm like, man, you can see everything. And I just can't help but feel like it should. They have flashlights, but in all honesty, they don't need them for how well it's lit.
Right.
Yeah.
Not accurate.
Yeah, because I doubt that any. Yeah, and it all takes place at night, so I don't know where light would be coming from. So
I can tell you from experience, being on a ship without light at sea at night, you can't see the hand in front of your face.
Which I think would have been more effective for a ghost movie.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Plus, I think that they would have done better to not have really any music. They have a lot of jump scares and music going on, which I think takes away from how creepy a abandoned ship at sea could sound.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
You would hear
the sound of the metal bending,
shipping in the middle of the sea,
the water, water hitting up against the side of the ship, the
sound of the metal bending with stress.
The metal bending and stretching, and just the sounds of rats out in the corridors and stuff like that. I think this movie would have served best. It suffers from what a lot of movies in the early 2000s did, and that's relying on a lot of jump scares and and a lot of fast edits. But I mean, that's just one of tons of movies that the early 2000s just were plagued with, movies that did a lot of that. But so it's not necessarily calling out this movie specifically, because tons of movies did that. So
especially in that time frame. Yeah,
they explore the ship. Carl was it somebody? One of the crew members kind of falls through the floor at one point. They help him up.
Munder.
I didn't know that Carl Urban was in this movie either.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I was like, hey, it's Billy the Butcher from The Boys.
Yeah, exactly.
Then they go back to the ship, regroup, think about what to do. and then they go back on the ship and split up, which, never a good idea in a horror movie to split up. But, we know that the ship is haunted, but even if it wasn't, you just had a guy fall through the floor. Like, don't split up. It took 3 of you guys to pull the guy back up. Blah, 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 blah. She keeps seeing little girl, and then they stumble across a chest full of gold. A chest full of gold.
I think there was like 9 bars.
Oh, there was a lot more than that.
Yeah, there's like multiple chests, too.
There was enough for the guy to say it might be worth $200 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so at this point I had to ask, all right, so with all this creepy stuff happening, she's seeing ghosts. The ship is starting to kind of sink a little bit. There's like a hole in the side or something like that. She was saying that the ship was sinking.
Yeah.
How much money has to be in front of you before you go, fuck this, let's get out of here? No, how much money has to be in front of you before you go, fuck it, I'll risk it?
Honestly,
a couple $100 million in gold might be worth the try.
Just grab maybe 2. Just mark the spot on the map where it is. Grab a couple bars and stuff them in your pocket, and then all right, let's get out of here. We'll come back for it.
Well, that's the thing. They couldn't because the current was taking the ship towards rocks or islands.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to actually completely sink the ship to where it'd be gone.
Well, if they sank the ship, if you grab just a couple of bars, you could finance, coming back with some scuba gear and getting it.
Yeah.
Anywho.
But I think they also wanted to tow the ship too, make that money from the ship.
Yeah,
so
they would have made $100 million.
Yeah.
And then old cruise liner would be worth tons of money.
That just disappeared randomly that people have been looking for years.
Hey, this thing was supposed to have $200 million worth of gold on it. Where'd it go? I don't know. We didn't find it. We didn't see any gold.
For me, it depends on how serious the taking on water is. Like, if it's just like, a crack in the hull, then I'll go look for some gold bars. But if we're taking on 10 feet of water every minute, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. So they decide, all right, before we even do this thing with the gold, they needed to repair their ship or their tugboat, right? That was their thing that they needed to do?
Yeah, they were kind of working on the engine of the tugboat.
Through some sabotage and some ill-placed propane tanks.
Well, that's after the tugboat's fixed. At this point is when they all finally just kind of said, fuck it, we're going to grab the gold and go.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. They're getting ready to go. And through some sabotage, a propane tank explodes, basically sinking the tugboat.
Yeah.
And killing off Santos.
Santos.
Yeah. Now, at this point, everybody's upset. The rest of the crew get back on the ship, and they're like, licking their wounds and all that business. And so, I had to stop because at one point, one of the blonde crew member dudes was like, "Didn't you research this ship before you sent us out here?" To Ferryman, and I was like, "How could he research? He didn't know what was out there." I think
it was Dodge. Yeah,
I was like, he came up to you and said, "Hey, look, I'm a pilot. I saw something out on the Bering Strait. I want to hire you guys so we can see what it is." Yeah. How is he supposed to research something that he has no? That was why you guys are there. You guys are the research.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? That's why I was laughing.
Continuity.
So I was like, "What are you angry for?" He said, "He's dead because what do you mean because of me?" Like, I didn't. Well, I mean, we later find out.
Psychological thing with grief where
you need somebody to blame.
You need some sort of reason or someone to blame. So yeah.
So now they're trying to figure out how they're gonna. I mean, they're on a gigantic cruise ship and they're trying to figure out, all right, well, how are we gonna navigate this thing and get to where we need to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I can't remember any of these people's names. The black guy.
Okay.
Greer. I can understand why he's angry. Because I'm sure he kind of blames... He was the one who pushed the button that kind of blew up everything. So I imagine he's kind of blaming himself. He goes off and gets drunk. And now everybody is starting to kind of see ghosts. They all kind of go off in their own separate directions. Greer sees a ghost. He sees... Francesca, who was an Italian singer back in the 60s during when all this business was going on.
Yeah. Fun fact, the actress that plays Francesca is actually named Francesca.
Oh, well, that makes it easy to...
Yeah.
So she is seducing Greer, who at one point was looking at like a picture of his fiance. It was like, I'll see you soon, baby. And then immediately she shows up and starts stripping, and he's like, fiance who? and just immediately goes off with her. Epps sees that little girl again and starts talking to her. Their captain sees the ghost of the ship's captain and starts talking.
Have like a drink and get together,
and get a little bit of exposition.
Yeah.
So now everybody's just now. So now, like if it was only her at the beginning, everybody's seeing ghosts now.
Yeah.
So now there is no secret that there are ghosts on this ship. And they're either trying to scare you, or in Francesca's case, fuck you. So, but that didn't last for long because she seduces what's his face into falling down an elevator shaft. So
I was going to say her exploits are double-sided.
That dude lost his erection so quickly.
Yeah, he went to like hug her, and then he just fell through her into the elevator shaft.
So he dies. What is it that the little girl? I believe the girl's name is Katie. The little girl, Emily Browning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She talks to Epps, and what was the info that we got from her?
Basically, that there's someone on the ship who's trying to take souls, so he can get enough souls to send them home, which I'm guessing is hell. Yeah,
there's always got to be, whether it's this or 13 Ghosts, there's always got to be somebody who's trying to open up hell somehow.
Yeah, so I'm guessing he's using...
I don't think she was referring to home as hell.
You think that home was just...
I think she meant...
the afterlife?
Yeah. I think she wants herself and the rest of the souls trapped on the ship to be able to move on and rest in peace.
Yeah.
And the ferryman is trying to take them down to hell.
Spoiler alert, ferryman is the bad guy.
Yeah.
Oh, get it?
Sorry, my bad.
No, it's fine. Get it? His name is Ferryman, as in, you know, the ferryman, I'm going to ferry you off to hell.
Karen.
Through a lot of exposition and flashbacks, we basically see that the story of the ghost ship is that this cruise liner, basically, I actually have it right here, so I can just keep myself on track with it. Basically, the cruise liner came across a bunch of gold, and everybody on board started killing each other, and somebody is influencing everybody to kill each other so that
they can be marked.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's essentially like people are killing themselves either for the gold or for various reasons.
Yeah.
Is the long and short of it. And we later find out that Ferryman is actually like possessed by like a demon, a sinner who's trying to get, people to kill themselves, essentially. Yeah. Which is not at all the direction I thought this was going to go in terms of like, we're opening up. You could have just kept it as a haunted ghost ship. Yeah. Like, I think as like, a haunted ghost ship is scary enough. I don't think you really needed to add demons and we're going to open up a portal to hell. It could have just been, a bunch of people died on this thing. They all killed each other because they all got... It could have been like you ever see A Simple Plan?
Yeah.
You've seen that movie?
I have not.
Basically, three guys find a loot full of money and then distrust each other and kill each other, basically trying to be the last people to hold on to the money. You could have just had that as like the premise of the ghost ship. And then
I think they were just, who knows? But my impression is that they were just trying to answer the question, why is it haunted? How did it get haunted?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, but sometimes the why isn't necessarily an important part if you have enough, if done correct. But then again, I have to judge a movie based on what we have and not what I would have done if I was telling the story.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So, one by one, the crew's getting picked off. ferryman is trying to kill people. He's basically trying to sink the ship.
Yep.
And everybody is trying to obviously survive.
Well, actually, he says that the reason that like the last 3 of the group that were survived is because he wanted to fix the ship, so he could keep using it to keep collecting souls.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but Epps is now trying to sink the ship.
Yeah, once she realizes that
once the ferryman is like, well, I'm gonna blow this bitch to the ground.
Yeah.
Or to the seafloor, or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, Ferryman offers to spare Epps' life in exchange for not interfering, but she refuses.
Yeah.
But he takes on the form of Dodge, right?
He came in there as Dodge, but shortly before that, we learned that Jack was actually the ferryman. Yeah.
So the ferryman can shapeshift, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is weird. He could have been shape-shifting this whole time. But anyway, Epps sees through his guys, and he offers to spare Epps in exchange for not interfering and not blowing up the ship. She refuses. They fight, and then Epps detonates the explosives. Ferryman is blown up in the explosion while Katie helps Epps escape the sinking ship. And Katie and the other trapped souls are basically freed from the ship.
Yay, freed souls!
Yay for freed souls!
Yeah.
Well, just 2 cents here. I thought it was cool that a horror story had a happy ending. I did like that.
Yeah, I guess not a lot of horror movies do have happy endings. But later, Epps is found by the cruise ship and returns to land. She's loaded into an ambulance. She sees the crates of gold being loaded into the cruise ship by people who resemble the Arctic Warrior crew.
Yep.
Overseen by the resurrected ferryman, who glares at her and carries on, and she screams. No, she doesn't. This isn't a happy ending. Well, it's happy ending for the ghost.
Happy for the souls. Not for her.
We're waiting for
her.
Now we're waiting for the sequel here. Maybe it'll come out eventually.
30 years later.
2, yeah.
By popular demand, 30 years later.
Well,
popular demand, oh yeah.
We're in the 20-year zone for the anniversary. Give us the sequel.
We see you're 17 on Rotten Tomatoes. We know what the people want.
Yeah.
But basically that is my sloppy recount of the movie Ghost Ship. First off, I don't even know if we should bother doing kill of the movie, because we usually do what was your favorite kill in the movie, because I'm sure all 3 of us are going to say that beginning scene.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, if not the beginning scene, I'd probably go with Munder getting crushed by the gears of the ship while he was trying to weld.
Mm-hmm. I'll say my backup one will be my girl Francesca getting the hook to the head.
Oh yeah, that was rough.
Not necessarily a kill, but some of the haunts I thought were interesting.
But by the way, before I forget, I need to do my little bit of nerd thing. You had mentioned Lemony Snicket earlier in the thing. Emily Browning was in the Lemony Snicket with Jim Carrey version movie.
Yes, sir. I can't speak. She sure was.
Because I remember when I watched that movie, I was like, why does this chick look familiar? I was like, I've seen her in something.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, yeah, she's that Australian actress that was in Ghost Ship. And then she later plays the dead wife in Neil Gaiman's American Gods.
Oh, I've never seen that.
The protagonist is frustrating, and I don't know. Emily Browning, I mean, she plays the character how she's supposed to, but I just don't like her character. I mean, she's written exactly how she needs to be for the movie. But I mean, even for the story, I didn't like her in the story version either. But I mean, that's just you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
If you can get past the protagonist not being that interesting, if you're into Neil Gaiman, it's a fun show.
Okay.
Which, are you into Neil Gaiman? If you're into fantasy, I would imagine you would like that.
I don't actually know who that is.
Have you ever watched Good Omens?
I have not.
He
I've
has
seen like the first season of that.
I think that the show Lucifer was based on his material. Um,
Okay.
and he does a lot of religious fantasy. And Sandman is going to be coming out soon on TV. That's based off of his property.
Okay.
Oh, that could be your thing. If you need a new show to binge, I'd say watch Good Omens. Neil Gaiman's really good at world building, and basically American gods is like the gods of old, like Norse gods, Greek gods, Egyptian gods, even like the Christian gods all live in the same universe, and they all like are trying to cope with living in the modern day in terms of like having religious followers and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
But this movie, Ghost Ship, let's go ahead and rate it. I usually do mine out of 30.
Yeah.
It's not going to be in the 20s. Oh, go ahead and get that out of the way right now.
Yeah.
No.
I compared it to Fear.com, which only got like a 6 or 7 out of me, I think.
I think Fear.com was a 6. If that. Yeah.
6, but
I
mean,
think
this
it was
is
6 with commercials.
This was, I think, better than Fear.com.
Yeah.
In terms of, it's going to be between 1 and 10.
I would say I'd probably put it at like 9, maybe. Barely a 9.
I'll put it at a 7 or 8 because when I think of a movie that's really bad, that it's hilarious to me. I mean, I was thinking, like I said, I thought of Black Christmas, the remake, because I think that maybe I was just in a giddy mood because it was Christmas time.
Yeah.
That I was just really happy watching, and I was just like, wait a minute, hold on a second, this dude just busted up through the floor, but they're in the attic. Like, how did that, like, I'll rate this in, like, it's definitely a step above Fear.com, even in the editing, so I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8.
Yeah, I'll go there with you, an 8.
I'll give it an 8. You know what, it might actually kind of, maybe if I saw this around Christmas time, maybe I'd feel the same way. It might be about as funny to me as Black Christmas in terms of, that doesn't make sense. Like, why? The ferryman at the very end just gets back on the ship, which begs the question, why did he care if that ghost ship got blown up anyway? Because apparently it doesn't matter.
Evidently, he's just attached to the gold. Where the gold goes, he goes.
So I'll give it an 8 in that. If you want to know my scale, Anthony, I say 1 to 10 are bad movies. 11 to 20 is okay movies, and 20 to 30 are really, really good movies. So if a movie is about an 8 or a 9, that means it's a bad movie, but I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can prefer a 8 over a 14. Because a 14 is just a very average, run-of-the-mill whatever movie.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that my scale doesn't make any sense to Dave. Because he's like, how can you prefer sometimes watching an 8 over a 14?
Yeah.
I was like, because sometimes a movie is bad and it's that it's funny to poke fun at, but it's objectively like not really well made. And sometimes a movie is just, I mean, cinematically it was fine. I mean, it told the story fine, but it was just whatever. So this one's about it. So this one's an 8. You can use my scale if you want, or you can go by your own, what you would rate this personally.
I personally would rate it somewhere between like 9 and 13.
So, like on a scale of 30?
Yeah.
All right, so I guess
there's a lot of plot holes.
All right, all right, so all right.
But I appreciate the unique story and the angle that they tried to go, and
it's certainly not the most infuriating movie that we've watched on this show.
No,
I think Venom still holds that record.
Yeah.
Not the superhero Venom movie. There's a movie called Venom from 2002.
Okay.
God awful.
You know, I might have to rewatch it though, just because we keep saying how awful it is, but I need to rewatch it just to remind myself, why did I hate this movie again?
Yeah.
Maybe I might do a live stream of me watching it and like talking to people and watching it. So
Yeah.
we haven't done live streams yet on our Instagram yet, but we should start.
Yeah.
But that's getting close to about the wrap up time for here on Body Bag. But one, I wanted to thank you again for taking some time and talking about your new book, talking about Shipface, and talking about Ghost Ship.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been awesome having you here.
Yeah.
I think this was a good way to kick off the guest season.
Yeah.
Depending on how we schedule everything, I think that we might have to end up using July as another recording month and then just start pumping them out in August. I don't know. Or we might start at the end of July. But to everybody out there, thanks for sticking with us this season. We got at least 4 more guests coming up this season. We got charity shout-outs, charity collections going on. We have book giveaways coming up. We got more top 10 lists. And you know what? We might even throw in a live stream here or there just to see what that's all about.
See how it goes, yeah.
Just to see how it goes. Just to see. And but in the meantime, Ant, do you want to, if people want to maybe get in touch with you or find you, where can they find you at?
You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Shipfaced Tony on YouTube, or you can reach out to me at my email, which is Anthony Gaiani Jr. at outlook.com. If you need me to spell it, I don't know how to help you.
Oh, you're on the old Insta and whatnot as well?
Yep, I'm on Instagram.
Can't find him through that, go through Body Bag and he's on our friends list. So, but thanks again for coming on, and thank you all again for listening, and all of our followers, all of our subscribers. I've been Chris Thomas, with me Broke Rider Dave and Anthony Gaiani.
Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to Body Bag Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave us a comment as to what you'd like to hear us review, or any horror movie topics you'd like to hear us rant and rave about.
And while you're at it, you can find us on Twitter at BodyBagPod and on Instagram at BodyBagPodcast.
Thanks, and we'll see you next time.